Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Jesse Capen. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Jesse Capen was born on June 2, 1974, and lived in Denver, Colorado. When he was young, his parents separated. Jesse was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is a disorder characterized by episodes of mania and episodes of depression. He appeared to be intelligent. For instance, his SAT scores were very high. Despite this, Jesse dropped out of high school and went to work sometime around 1998 as a bellhop at the Sheraton Hotel in downtown Denver. He worked the overnight shift and thoroughly enjoyed his job. He never missed a day of work. Standing 6'4" and weighing over 200 pounds, Jesse was a big guy. His acquaintances referred to him as the gentle giant. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. In 2007, Jesse Capen started preparing for a mysterious camping and hiking adventure, which was to take place toward the end of 2009. He was cryptic about this trip and would not tell his mother where he was going. After she continued asking questions, Jesse revealed that his destination was the Tonto National Forest. This is 50 miles east of Phoenix, Arizona. It is about 2.8 million acres, so knowing this location did not really narrow down where Jesse was going to be. Jesse had saved his vacation days from his job as a bellhop, so he would have 1 month for his journey. He prepared for the trip in a variety of ways. For example, he traded his vehicle for a four-wheel drive Jeep Grand Cherokee SUV. He purchased a sleeping bag, which his mother altered so he could fit in it. He purchased a new tent, and he bought many other supplies. Jesse told his mother that he intended to be back before Christmas. On November 26, 2009, Jesse left for Arizona. He drove 850 miles from his home in Denver, Colorado, to Apache Junction. This is 35 miles east of Phoenix. He rented a motel room there and filled it with enough food and supplies to last 1 month. This motel room was to serve as his base of operations for multi-day trips into the Superstition Mountains. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned for Jesse. On December 20, 2009, a hiker on the Tortilla Trailhead discovered Jesse's Jeep Grand Cherokee and reported it to the authorities. The vehicle was parked in an area where vehicles were not permitted. 2.2 miles away from the SUV, the police found Jesse's tent, which had been flattened, as well as various personal belongings like his car keys, his wallet, and his credit cards. The police found a receipt which led them to the motel in Apache Junction where Jesse had stayed. The last time he had been to the motel was on December 3, 2009, 17 days before his vehicle was discovered. Jesse told an employee at the motel that he would return in a week, but he was never seen again. The authorities conducted a massive search around Jesse's campsite, but there was no sign of him. It was like he disappeared into thin air. There were many theories about what could have happened to Jesse. For example, he was kidnapped, murdered, lost, injured, was killed by the elements, or staged his own disappearance to start a new life. The authorities believed the most likely explanation was that Jesse died from a fall or exposure. As the police continued to investigate, they uncovered the reason that Jesse was hiking through the Superstition Mountains in the first place. This is something that he had been hiding from just about everybody in his life. Evidently, Jesse had become obsessed with the legend of the Lost Dutchman's Goldmine. In the 1860s, a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz searched for gold in the Superstition Mountains. Even though he was German, he was referred to as the Dutchman. Over the years, a legend formed around Jacob. Myriad fantastical stories about him surfaced. Many, if not all of these tales, appear to be fabricated. There is no doubt that Jacob was a real person, and he did search for gold in the Superstition Mountains. But outside that, there's a lot of uncertainty. According to the legend, Jacob found, or was directed to, a massive mine that contained an incredibly large quantity of gold. So much gold that, these days, it would be worth billions of dollars. Jacob was careful about protecting the location of the gold mine. He would sneak out to the mine and take some gold back to his residence a little bit at a time. He always made sure that no one followed him. Right before Jacob died on October 25, 1891, at the age of 83, he drew a map and gave it to a boarding house owner who had taken care of him for many years. Starting in 1892, the year after Jacob died, people searched for this mysterious gold mine. Various searches have been conducted over the course of over 100 years. There are still people who venture into these Superstition Mountains hoping to find the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. It does not appear as though anyone has been successful in finding the mine, although many people have found death. For example, 7 months after Jesse disappeared, 3 men chasing the legend of the Lost Dutchman mine went missing. Their skeletons were found in early 2011. All 3 of them had died from exposure. Jesse had collected all the information he could about the Lost Dutchman. He had over 100 books on the topic. Some of the books were found in his tent. The rest were in his apartment in Denver. Jesse had collected large numbers of paintings, maps, and diagrams related to the legend. He underlined several passages in books and made numerous calculations, like he was trying to solve a mathematical equation. A computer was found stored in his luggage at the motel where he was staying in Apache Junction. The last activity was on December 3, 2009, at 3:38 p.m. An examination of the computer's contents revealed that Jesse had been a regular visitor to treasure-hunting internet forums. He had been searching for information about the Lost Dutchman for at least 9 years. In September 2000, he had traveled to Washington, D.C. to conduct research at the Library of Congress and the National Archives. In 2001, he traveled to the Superstition Mountains, so his fateful trip in 2009 was not his first time in the area. Learning about Jesse's motive for being in the Superstition Mountains was fascinating for investigators. Unfortunately, it did not bring the police any closer to finding him. Some people believed that his body would never be recovered. While pursuing the Lost Dutchman, Jesse became forever lost himself. In November 2011, a logbook was discovered on top of Tortilla Mountain. It contained many signatures from hikers who memorialized their journeys to the top of this 4,892-foot mountain. Jesse's name was in the book. He had signed it on December 4, 2009, one day after the last activity on his computer and 16 days before his vehicle was discovered. This brought the authorities one step closer to solving the mystery. The last step would be taken a year later, on November 24, 2012. The remains of Jesse Capen were found a half-mile from his campsite at the bottom of a 180-foot cliff. He had been concealed in a crevice, which explains why it had been so difficult to find him. Not far from his body, a bag was discovered containing Jesse's GPS equipment and his mother's camera. It appeared as though Jesse had simply fallen off the cliff. The mystery of his disappearance was solved. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Jesse was an incredibly determined individual. As I mentioned, he had over 100 books about the legend of the Lost Dutchman. He was active in treasure hunting forums, and Jesse spent a lot of time conducting what he referred to as research. The authorities estimated that Jesse must have made 3 or 4 trips back and forth between his vehicle and the campsite in order to move his supplies. Again, the campsite was 2.2 miles from his vehicle. This would have been very difficult, especially when considering the terrain and Jesse's physical condition. He was not an athlete by any measure. Item number 2, Jesse had an intense interest in the Lost Dutchman, but this was not the only treasure he was pursuing. In December 2007, Jesse traveled to Chincoteague Island in Virginia. Prior to this, he had spent over $500 on custom satellite photographs of the island. It appeared as though he was searching for shipwrecks that occurred in this area some time ago. Item number 3, Jesse had some experience hiking when he was young, and he was a very determined individual, as I mentioned. But these factors did not translate into him being a skilled outdoorsman or being safe in the wilderness. Even though Jesse had a lot of supplies, he was missing a few key items. He did not have a cell phone with him. As a matter of fact, he did not even own a cell phone. Jesse was not carrying a firearm, even though there were mountain lions in the area, and he did not remember to take a knife. He only had one with him because his mother pointed out how important that was. The terrain in the Superstition Mountains is very rugged. It is referred to as Hell's Backyard. This is not an ideal place to be exploring alone. Describing a place or an object using the possessive form of hell is never a good sign as far as survivability. You never hear of places like Hell's Gentle Sloping Ridge or Hell's Rolling Hills. The tourism board in Hell must be frustrated by all this negative publicity. On top of all the other problems Jesse was facing, he was struggling with mental health concerns. He had bipolar disorder, and he was suffering from anxiety. Specifically for the anxiety, Jesse had recently been prescribed the atypical antidepressant mirtazapine. This drug is commonly used off-label to treat generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, and panic disorder. It's not clear if Jesse was diagnosed with any of these disorders, but he was reporting anxiety. This is a particularly dangerous feeling when somebody is alone in the wilderness. Anxiety and panic are not conducive to rational decision-making. Now moving to item number 4. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. On the surface, Jesse Capen appeared to be content working a low-level job at a hotel, but in reality, he had grandiose dreams. He had become mesmerized by the legends of hidden treasures. Jesse could have been influenced by any number of sources, including well-known films about finding treasure. For example, the Indiana Jones movies, Romancing the Stone, The Goonies, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the National Treasure movies. Jesse did not appear to be particularly motivated towards success, but it was all just a matter of finding the right motive. Locating a treasure like the Lost Dutchman's Goldmine would not only give him wealth, but a sense of purpose. This was a way he could demonstrate his worth and distinguish himself. For 2 years, Jesse prepared for a trip to the Superstition Mountains, where he believed the mine was located. He was so focused on his goal, he neglected other concerns, like safety in the wilderness. Jesse was not well prepared to survive in this environment. This was not the only factor that caused Jesse problems. The nature of his treasure hunting mission led to him being secretive about his location. He was worried that competing treasure hunters were out to steal his knowledge, like they would use it to locate the gold mine before he did and steal his glory. At some point, Jesse became paranoid. In addition, he was anxious, panicked, and excited. His mental health symptoms complicated an already dangerous mission. Alone in the wilderness, Jesse was extremely vulnerable as he searched the terrain. He was looking for a gold mine which had not been disturbed for over 100 years. Vegetation may have grown over the entrance to the mine, rocks may have shifted, dirt could have obscured the location. Jesse was not just looking for an obvious opening on the surface. He was really trying to explore the terrain, seeking places off the trail. This, of course, created another danger. I think what happened here is that Jesse ventured too close to the edge of the cliff, or he tried to climb down. He lost his footing and fell to his death. The only treasure that Jesse discovered was gravity. The legend of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine claimed another victim. This case highlights how some people relentlessly pursue nonsensical goals. They are looking for a treasure which is lost or may not exist, but what they really want is to find a sense of purpose. That is the element that is truly lost or non-existent. It is better concealed than any mysterious gold treasure. Now moving to my final thoughts. Throughout my career, I have seen many examples of how it is critical for people to have a sense of purpose. Being motivated to achieve some type of goal can lead to mental health symptoms becoming less severe or even disappearing. This is a truth which has been repeatedly observed in the world of mental health counseling. For example, I've seen people give up 20-year addictions to alcohol because they found a job they love. The job did not permit them to drink, so they stopped drinking. There have been people with OCD who recovered from most, if not all, of their symptoms when pursuing love interests. Like being focused on romance was such a distraction, there was no time to engage in compulsive behavior. It's almost like the mental disorder was forced to take a back seat to other concerns. I've seen people who suffered from feelings of depression for 30 years who improved dramatically after volunteering at places like a homeless shelter. Working with people who were destitute helped the individuals to reframe their lives. It put things in perspective. Furthermore, they felt as though they were finally making a difference. Not everyone with mental health symptoms will improve if they find a sense of purpose. It is not that simple in all cases. But for some, getting better really is just a matter of motivation. The question becomes, what happens if the motive is destructive or hazardous? What if it is worse than the mental health symptoms. The story of Jesse Capen serves as a reminder that a new and exciting motivation can sometimes be more dangerous than the mental health symptoms, which are alleviated. Those are my thoughts on the case of Jesse Capen. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.